Staying with us, environmentalist John Varty has offered to pay R1 million for the release of 3 elephants being kept at the Joburg Zoo. The acquisition sparked outrage from some sectors after the SPCA raised concerns over the size of the enclosures. To discuss whether these mammals should be kept in the zoo, we are joined via Skype by Professor Graham Kerley from the Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University. He's with the Zoology department there. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Now, for animal lovers looking at the story, it seems like a cut and dried situation. Somebody willing to pay money to take these mammals from an enclosed zoo environment and give them a free rein, as it were, in a wider environment in the Free State, we understand. But is it that simple? How do you feel about this offer that John Varty has made?
I think it's a twofold issue. One of them is the money story about the elephants, and the other one is really about the elephants. And I think that it's probably best to focus on the elephants than the money, because they're the principal and the moral dilemma that we need to face. So keeping animals in captivity is a hotly disputed item globally, whether it's whales or dolphins for display purposes or elephants for display purposes. This is the real issue. Should we be keeping animals in captivity for human entertainment?
And now, if you look at the 3 elephants in question now, we've got Lummy, who is the elephant that was left behind, and she's been living in a captive environment for a very long time. So the idea there was that she was very lonely, and we are told that elephants are very sociable. And then on the other side of the story, we've got these 2 elephants who were taken from an Eastern Cape game park, so they know what it's like to be in a more free-roaming environment. Should all 3 of them be looked at in the same way in judging the story, and what would be best for them going forward?
Yes, I think that it's best to look at the elephants, and elephants in captivity is really the antithesis of what an elephant is. An elephant's a big mammal. They require large spaces. They should not be kept in confined areas. And as I don't know the full details of the 2 animals who've been brought into the zoo now, and I understand that they were in a semi-captive situation, in an elephant-back safari or elephant walking setup, but they're still captive animals. And elephants should really be free. And when you look at the space use of elephants, wild elephants use huge spaces. We have records of elephants walking for hundreds of kilometers. And for them to be then confined into a very small space like a zoo for human entertainment really becomes a major moral issue.
I've been lucky enough to see them in the wild in places like the Kruger, further up north in the Kruger, where you can actually see the vast distances that they travel. And indeed, Addo National Park, close to where you are at the moment. They are very sociable characters. We learn about how the mothers are very protective, especially of their young, and the role of the male elephants in the big groups that they travel in as well. What kind of impact can captivity have on an elephant?
I'm not an elephant psychologist, but you start seeing unusual behaviors in captive elephants. They'll stand and display a swaying action where they'll be rocking their bodies backwards and forwards for hours on end. You don't see this in wild elephants. And clearly the ability to communicate with other elephants is taken away from them. We know that elephants can communicate over huge distances, but it's unlikely that the ones in the Joburg Zoo will be able to communicate with wild elephants. And then the animals are deprived of their social interactions. 3 elephants is not a herd of elephants. And if you look at elephants, their entire life history revolves around calves and matriarchs. So the matriarch provides the social leadership in the herd, whereas the calves provide the social glue. And if we take that away from them, do we really still have elephants? Or are they just entertainment objects that we have to feed a lot of food to?
Now, the argument from the zoo would be that they play a very important role to those members of the public who will not have the opportunity or cannot afford the opportunity to see these animals in the wild. Is there a role for a zoo in a modern-day society?
I think that is an issue which we really need to grapple with properly as society. I can see the sense in the zoos are a Victorian or even pre-Victorian hangover, when people were not exposed to these animals and there were no other mechanisms to show people the wonders of nature. But now when you think what David Attenborough has done through his television series to bring the world to the people, and we do not need to confine animals into small pens in captivity for people to experience the wonder of nature and the wonder of wildlife. And when you look at our largest terrestrial mammals, the wonder of elephants, we can experience them through other media. We don't necessarily have to put them into captivity.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for your insight there. Very important moral question, as you say there, for us to grapple with as society. Via Skype there from Port Elizabeth, Graham Kerley is a professor with the Nelson Mandela Metropolitan University's Zoology Department.